Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Long, and with me, as always, is my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Gloth. How are you doing today, Jacob?
I am swell, Charles.
You ready to? I'm good. I'm ready to pitch a brand new televisual series for our viewers and listeners to imagine in our heads, and then maybe one day. My hope for this podcast is that one day, 20 years from now, we'll get a what? We'll get a TV show.
You guys can't see this, but he's freaking dancing along to this.
I'm moving around.
There's no music. He's just dancing to the words he's spouting out of his head.
My hope for this podcast is that 10 years from now, there will be a TV show that's basically an amalgamation of like a bunch of our episodes just smashed together. And then we'll sue Netflix and make a pretty penny. That's what I think will happen, but probably not.
I'd feel very flattered if someone stole one of our episodes.
I would be very flattered too if somebody stole one of our episodes, but I would sue. I would.
Yeah, probably.
Just not even like because money. I want any money, but because I want people to hear about it. You know. Mm-hmm. Because if there was like a big, $80 million TV show that was basically just, I don't know, the adventures of Ivan Illich, right?
Yeah.
And we sued about it, we would probably
Isaac
make
Illich, by the way.
Isaac Illich, yeah, sorry. We probably wouldn't make very much money.
Maybe it was Ivan Illich.
No.
Oh my God.
It was Isaac. It was Isaac. Because it was Isaac Asimov and Ivan Illich.
Ivan Illich is the guy from the book that
we read in high school.
Isaac Asimov's the robot dude.
Yeah, he's the Russian sci-fi writer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be very flattered if someone stole some of our ideas, and I would be happy if they gave us credit and maybe a little bit of money, and maybe we got to go to the red carpet.
I could pass on the red carpet, but because what are we gonna? No one's gonna care. You know?
No one's taking pictures of us, but I still want to go.
I'm not there.
I want to be. Have you seen The Boys season 3 yet?
No, but I'm just imagining our red carpet, and like in front of us is some really attractive actress, and there's like tons of clicks and everything, like like everyone's taking photos. Mm-hmm. Oh, the shutter going, and then there's a long pause.
Yeah.
We pass. And then another attractive actress, and they're like, click, click, like there's like a good minute pause of just nothing.
The first person who they're taking.
I'm just trying to run past to avoid the embarrassment, and Charlie, you're like going up to people like, please take my photo, please just do it. I'll pay you, please. I'll buy the photo.
I'm doing this. I'm sauntering. I'm having a blast.
Oh my God.
The first attractive woman to pass is going to be that chick from the Lord of the Rings show.
We were talking about
the Welsh one.
Show. It's good.
It's good. Jake likes it. I haven't seen it yet, but it's probably good. It's the most expensive television show ever made, so it better be at least okay.
Mm-hmm. People are complaining that there's like not a plot, and I'm like, did you watch the episodes? Because there's a plot. I have no understanding of the criticism. Absolutely no idea.
It's just people mad because
they're like, we don't know where the show's going. I'm like, are you not getting this whole Sauron thing? Right. Like, are you not following this thread that's quite obvious here?
I was going to say, yeah, probably it's the rings, right? They're making the rings.
Yeah,
surely.
Are you not following this whole ring thing, the whole Sauron?
It's called the Rings of Power. Surely the rings, it's not, the Green Lantern's not going to fucking show up, is he? It's not, what are you talking about?
Yeah, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart aren't here.
But Guy Gardner is here, and he's being a real prick.
Guy Gardner and Kyle Rayner.
Guy Gardner, my favorite Green Lantern. Jason Todd, my favorite Robin. John Constantine, my favorite British person. It seems like there's a
same.
A pattern
My
there.
favorite British person is also fictional because real British people aren't as good.
I mean...
Heard it here first, folks.
Yep, hear it first, folks. My favorite British person is John Constantine. My second favorite British person, Ringo Starr. 2 fictional characters that I'm a big fan of. So, our new television series is titled, and this title is open to 2 changes, if you want to change it. It's Neuwasser. 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 Right? Those two things are the German words for new water, just kind of smashed together and pronounced incorrectly, right?
Classic.
Yeah, and it is a show. It's a realistic take on what would happen if Atlantis was real. Because often you'll see in like a sci-fi, fantasy superhero universe, Atlantis will be like discovered, it'll be actually real, and it changes almost nothing. It's just like, oh, there's fucking Atlanteans now. Like in Aquaman. It's like Atlantis is real, and that's about it. But in reality, if Atlantis was discovered, it would change so much about just how your day-to-day work, like how your day-to-day...
You saying, like, exists on a level where it's, like, there's people that live there?
Yes, this is a fully fledged Atlantean society, right? And so it would, alter pretty much everything about your day-to-day life. Not everything, but a lot of it, So how the series would start would be there would just be this enormous earthquake, right? And the earth would like crack open, and there would be like this huge cave system that was unveiled, revealed, right? And so some cave explorers go down, and they meet some Atlanteans. And it's really weird, because the Atlanteans look human, but they also don't, And they have their own language, but they also speak English. They have a competent understanding of English.
Well, yeah, because obviously during the Age of Exploration, the English started a colony down there.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. But and the Atlanteans are like, yes, and they just think about them. They're all pale-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, right? But their eyes are like really thick and huge, because they've adapted to living underneath the water. So they look human enough, but they also...
They're like anime Aquaman.
Yeah, exactly, like anime Aquaman. They look almost human, but they're definitely, you can tell the difference, And so the Atlanteans, right, they come out and they meet up with some Earth, associates. And we would all do this. This would be like the first episode, first like 5 minutes, kind of
backstory, narrator going ahead, like, then the fish people came from the ocean.
Yeah, montage of different things, right? And it would just be like setting up the fact that, global trade has been interrupted. Like there's been like skirmishes, not a full-out war, but there is definitely some animosity between the Atlanteans and the surface dwellers because of all of the trash and everything in the oceans and all the pollution. And, like, global trade has been halted severely because you now have to pay Atlantean taxes in order to, like, bring something across the ocean via boat and everything. And so there's this whole society that has supposedly, like, been underwater, cut off from humanity for millennia, right? They've been far, far away. And that's the story that they're giving all of the people. They're saying, yeah, we are a subset of humans. We're Homo aquatus or whatever, We instead of Homo sapiens, we're Homo aquatus, and we're a separate evolutionary subset of humans that evolved to live underwater, right? And that's their whole thing.
Yep, we went back into the water.
Yeah, they went back in. They were like swimming about and loving it. They're absolutely loving it. And I want to give you another little tidbit about Atlantean society. A bit more backstory before we dive into our three protagonists, because this is a three-pronged show. There's all sorts of different stuff happening.
Like a trident.
Yeah, like a trident, or like a fork with three points.
All right, come on. I gave you the trident, perfect for Atlantean society, and you went with the fork.
Yeah,
thing.
fork. But the Atlanteans kind of think of themselves as being better than Earth, than surface dwellers. They're not like out and out like completely racist towards them, but they're like, we're of a higher, we're a higher species. We're better than you,
We're you, but we can breathe underwater.
We can breathe underwater, and also with this simple technology that we've developed, we can also breathe on land. We're better in every way. We're stronger, we're faster, that sort of thing. And they also, because they live underwater, and it's not like a dome city situation, they genuinely just live under, water. There's always water around them and on them. They've had to develop like all their technology not based around combustion, right? So they don't have combustion engines or anything like that. They have to, they get their power from heat vents at the bottom of the ocean, whatever. And I started having this idea. And
all their lights are bioluminescent.
Yeah, their lights are bioluminescent. They've developed and like crossbred these various different like underwater creatures in order to develop basically like cows. They're not cows. They don't look like cows, but they're just giant like beasts that they get meat and milk from. But it's like special underwater milk, that sort of thing. And I had an idea for a few weapons, because weapons are fun, and this is a fun sci-fi show. Few weapons that the underwater military would have. My first idea was an ant gun, right? Because I watched this video on Reddit of like a bunch of fire ants that form shapes and stuff, and they can withstand like crazy amounts of pressure that would totally kill a singular ant, but they like hold on so tight together that they can like form rafts and like stay underwater and afloat and all that stuff. And so this ant gun fires these like sort of underwater ant situations that they come out as this it's like a pneumatic firing mechanism, and they come out as this ball that can form into kind of shapes that are dictated by the weapons wielder. And then our thing is a sonic emitter that shoots basically, in the old Super Friends cartoon when Aquaman would like talk to fish, all those rings that come,
and they got the little waves.
Like, that it shoots that, and it doesn't like fling you backwards or anything. It just gives you a headache. Like that's what it does to people. But it's like depending on the intensity, it could be like mild, my head hurts a bit, or it could be like I'm in such excruciating pain that I can't stand up or anything. And then we have a retractable harpoon, right? So it fires the harpoon, sticks into things, and then they press another button and it like comes back to it. It's basically Batman's grapple gun, but it's just a stick, right? And it just fires it. Yeah. So this is the kind of world that I'm building. It's kind of like a neo-futuristic, like retro-futurist sort of civilization. There are lots of hard edges. This society is not very much about rounding things. All of the buildings, the technology, the architecture, it's all very like straight lines, hard edges, that sort of thing. And the people are of a similar way. They're also similarly like they're rough and tumble, but they're also not, they're not all bad. So our three main characters, right? We've got Special Agent Anchor. That's his secret code name. And he is a rough and tumble special agent who's infiltrating Atlantean government buildings. He's planting bugs. He's, basically being a CIA agent who's working in Atlantis. Because at this point in the series, there is at this point in the timeline, there is a special suit, special mechanisms for people to be able to live down there with the Atlanteans, right? And
something small, it's not overly intrusive.
Yeah, it's they get a special helmet that
little thing if you watch Star Wars, the Phantom Menace, the little thing they put on their mask when they go in the mouth when they go in the water, just like a little one like that, not something huge.
It's like that, and then they take special pills that makes their bones stronger to deal with the pressure and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so he is the kind of guy who he'll do anything for his country.
Or just pretend pressure doesn't exist, because pressure's stupid.
Pressure is stupid. What do you mean water weighs things? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, Yeah. It's not cool.
And he's, he's like a not morally bankrupt, but he's morally flexible Special Agent Anchor. and he is right now working in the seedier underbelly, criminal parts of Atlantean culture, right? And then we've got Emil Harrow. He is a German student who won a free tour of Atlantis and a 2-month-long stay, right? That's his thing. He entered a raffle, and he won this, all expenses paid trip sort of stay in Atlantis. And it's kind of like, I'm trying to think about it. I think about it like, when YouTubers go to North Korea,
Oh, it's like that?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a Disneyland trip.
No, it's like he's, he is being shepherded around by Atlantean, officials and tour guides, and he's, showing, he's going to he's going to an Atlantean nightclub. They're making sure to show him all the good stuff and none of the bad stuff, right? So he's, he's making out with Atlantis girls, and he's, getting drunk on Atlantis wine or whatever they drink, beer. They drink beer. It's a special beer. They have
toxic stuff from fish gullets.
And our last...
There's probably some sort of alcohol made from
like plankton.
The ocean.
Yeah, you could find a plankton.
No, there's probably something in the world. I don't know. Japanese probably got some. I just feel like they do.
The Japanese are pretty smart about ocean stuff. And
being an island, you generally have to be.
Yeah, usually. And our last character is the only one who is not a human. He is an Atlantean. His name is Rus, R-U-S, but there's a little umlaut on the U. And he is an Atlantean translator who is working in the UN, right? Because not all the Atlanteans speak English. So he is completely fluent in English and Atlantean, and he is working as a translator to help, ease the communication barrier between Atlantis and, the rest of the world governments. And so...
May I interrupt for a moment?
Yeah, go for it. Interrupt all of it.
Cattail moonshine is an American moonshine made from cattails, which is like a thing that lives in the water plant.
All right.
So... cattail moonshine. That could be something they got. Maybe they got different types of moonshine.
Maybe that's down there. Maybe Special Agent Anchor can one of the episodes he can go out to basically the hillbilly part of Atlantis.
All the people can drink moonshine too.
Yeah, I know, but it would be funny if they had hillbilly Atlantis and he had to do whatchamacallit, Smokey and the Bandit style adventure. But it's him and some Atlantean rednecks, and they've got slightly different opinions about things than you would expect rednecks to have, right? Mm-hmm. But Rus he's a fun-loving guy, but he's lived in Atlantis his entire life, and everyone in Atlantis is fair-skinned, pale, with blonde hair and blue eyes, and so he doesn't really he's not aware of all of the social faux pas and expectations that come with having different ethnic groups around. So he's constantly making an ass of himself, but he's not being rude on purpose, but he's saying things and he's asking questions that you would not expect somebody to ask. And so each of these three main characters, I want to have their story to have a slightly different tone, Because Special Agent Anchor, he's the darkest, that's got the darkest tone. It's down in the dumps with the crime lords and the,
down and dirty
trafficking and all this stuff that he has to deal with because he's trying to, infiltrate, government buildings in Atlantis, and he needs to create contacts with people that also want to infiltrate these government buildings, and the only people who want to do that are criminals. So
you could call the Atlantis Mafia
what?
The Yakuza. Get it? Like Yakuza, but jacuzzi because they're water.
Because they're water.
And they're hot water.
They're hot water because it's hot in water sometimes.
Just because they're in hot water because it's a tough situation.
It's crime.
The Yakuza.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. We could call him the Yakuza.
I like Yakuza.
Yeah. and Emil.
It's kind of silly. I don't know if everyone will get the joke.
Probably not, but that's okay.
Well, no, it's better if they don't get the joke because it is very silly, and you seem to have a serious character.
I mean, it is kind of a serious show about Atlantis, so it's like, how serious can you be about
All right, let's hope they don't
people?
get the joke then.
Yeah, let's hope. About the Yakuza. They'll probably get it. It's not that so subtle.
Not that far, is it?
No, but Emil, Special Agent Anchor, his story is all about, like, the down and dirty underbelly of Atlantis. Whereas Emil, his story is all about, kind of living with normal, regular, everyday Atlanteans and seeing how their society is structured. But also there is, like, a facade that is being, like, built around him that he will every once in a while, like, break through and see, like, oh, maybe this isn't, maybe this place is also kind of fucked up and it's got, like, some problems that they're not letting me see because they want to,
Yeah, so they're getting the impression of utopia. He's getting the impression of utopia when it's not.
Yeah.
Really.
And Roos, his story is probably going to be the most fun because it's going to be like a fish out of water story of, he's doing fun things in New York City, and he's, going to see shows, and he's going to, like, a nightclub, and he's going to, hang out on the Eiffel Tower. That's not in New York City, but you know what I mean. He's going to the Statue of Liberty. He's going to a weird sex club. He's doing all sorts of fun stuff. But also, he's dealing with prejudices that people have against him because he is a fishman and he's not of the same place. And people are scared and hate things that they don't understand. As Carmine Falcone says in Batman the Begins. Batman the Begins.
Batman the Begins. That's my favorite Batman. Yeah. Batman the Begins.
My favorite part of that movie is when everyone calls him Falcone. Because they do. It's fucking so annoying. Because it's like, Rachel, you're a very smart woman. You're a lawyer, You have to know it's not Falcone. It's Falcone.
Maybe he pronounces it like that. All right.
He does. It's like, come on, Chris. Christopher.
Yeah, Chris Pine.
He doesn't like to be called Chris, I imagine. Mr. Nolan probably doesn't like to be called Chris.
I think, people close to him probably call him Chris. But you probably can't. If I had to guess. I don't know anything. I'm just taking a stab.
Yeah. I mean, he might like me. Maybe he listens to the pod. That would be fun. If
he's a big fan, yeah.
The only person we have who listens to the pod, like, religiously is Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
But he's not on social media, so he doesn't tell anyone about it.
Mm-hmm. He probably, we do tell him to tell people at the end. He really does, but they're like, haha, oh, Chris.
Oh, Chris, you silly boy. How about you go direct another movie? Have it be about magicians or whatever.
Comes out next year.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it. That's fun. It's the first movie.
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, so's a bunch.
That's not true. He was in Doolittle after.
That's why I was changing it. I was saying the first non-Disney movie he's made since 2012, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's the first non-WB Nolan film in a while.
Good, because WB is setting fire to their entire business. It's crazy.
Well, I don't know too much about it. It's really good.
It's insane. They just...
What are we talking about again?
Neuwasser. Yeah. So, right now, I have the beginning and the end, right? So there's a lot of space in the middle to...
You got the beginning and the end. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it's Special Agent Anchor, because this is all the first episode. Special Agent Anchor makes contact with a CIA asset that they have already in Atlantis, right? And he is like this weaselly kind of fish man who is being paid an exorbitant amount of money by the CIA in order to provide protection and information to Special Agent Anchor, right? So we get to introduce him to his, to his, hideout, basically. It's this, shitty little shack that's built in the ghettos of, Atlantis. And it's really crappy. It's leaking pipes. There are no pipes, but leaky, things. Maybe it is it's having the water pumped out of it at all times in order to create somewhere that he could sleep properly. But it's like, again, it's very poorly made. And then I think we could have a very fun match shot of that, you know, the crappy hideout, match shot it with Emil arriving to his, like, penthouse suite that he's staying in for the next 2 months, and it's got, like, all of this, you know, glorious, like, furniture and beautiful, like, artwork on the walls. It has all this delicious Atlantean fruit that has been picked especially for him. You know, there's an itinerary set out for him, and he's like this very unassuming German student. You know, he's not very interesting. He's not like writing a book. He's not, you know, anything. He's just like a normal student, right? And then he undergoes, like, when he gets there, he undergoes like a medical tests in order to just see how his body is reacting to being underwater. That's what they tell him. And they take his blood and stuff, right? And then he meets up with his tour guide, who is this woman who is his tour guide is the most gorgeous woman that he's ever seen, you know? And that's totally on purpose. They're trying to get this guy to fall in love with Atlantis, right? And so, you know, they go out, they go party, and he's worried because he's like, I really like my tour guide, you know, I want to ask her out, but then there's also girls here that are interested in me because I'm the only, you know, surface dweller they've ever met. And he's like, it's basically a dream come true for him, right? And that's like the whole point, it's this fantasy situation where he, you know, gets to sleep with all of these Atlantean girls, and, you know, he's basically a rock star, right? And then our, you know, final part of the episode will be Roos arriving in New York City, and he's got, you know, an apartment. It's not nice, it's not bad, it's just a normal everyday apartment that he's staying in. And he meets up with some of the other translators that are working with the UN, you know, and he does their introduction. They're sort of like, what do you call it? What do you call them when it's like your first day? They give you orientation. Yeah, he gets the orientation seminar. He gets a packet, you know, and he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back to my, you know, apartment and study this.
Atlantean swag, as they would call it.
Yeah. He
it's a little tote bag, maybe a little badge.
Oh, that would be nice. Get him a little tote
sticker.
Bag. A little a pin, and he doesn't know what to do with it at first because they don't have those in Atlantis. It's like, and he just like stabs it into himself. It's, ow. And then somebody else shows him how to do it, and that person,
funny fish out of water stuff.
Turns out to be another translator, and he's working, you know, I don't know. Let's make up something for him to translate to. He translates Mandarin, I guess. I don't know. Just made that up, but whatever. And he decides, you know what? This guy seems like he's a little out of his depth. I've been there before. I lived in China for, you know, many, many years. And when I first moved there, I was very much a fish out of water.
I thought the depth one was better. It was subtle.
It was good.
Out of his depth.
And so he decides to take him under his wing, and Roos is the kind of guy who he didn't party very much, you know, when he was in Atlantis. He was studying, and he, you know, thinks, well, I'm just going to go back to my apartment, and I'm going to study this orientation packet, and then, you know, I'll be right here bright and early for tomorrow. And instead, the other translator, let's give him a name right now. Let's think of it. Again, I'm going to say his name is Sirs.
Where is he from? Did you give a nationality?
I didn't give a nationality. Let's say...
Let's call him Jared.
Jared, yeah. And Jared's like, you know what? We're going to go out tonight. You know, I'm going to take you under my wing. We're going to go out. We're going to have a good time. And maybe we can have something like a throwaway line, the fact that Atlantean alcohol isn't very good. Like, it doesn't taste very good, you know, because it's all made out of, like, crappy underwater ingredients instead of, you know, fresh yeast or whatever they make alcohol out of. And so he's tried it, like he's had alcohol before and he doesn't like it. And then he tries like an espresso martini or something, or like a fancy cocktail that you get in New York City, and he just goes ham. He goes insane, just like having shots and beers and wines and everything. And he's like, it's the first time.
Do you think he'd have a stronger tolerance because I don't know, their livers might develop more to deal with all the toxins and stuff under the water? I don't know if they would or not.
I think that would be good. Yeah.
He definitely has to have a different tolerance than normal people. It has to be either less or more.
Maybe he's got like
probably more.
Way higher tolerance for alcohol, but he also gets way worse hangovers, you know? Because the whole point of alcohol is that it dehydrates you. And when he dehydrates, it's really bad for him.
He gets really dehydrated.
So it's like, because I think that would be funny if it like ends, you know, the first episode ends with him like throwing back shots and just having a blast, you know, and he's, you know, partying with people. The second episode ends with him waking up and he's like, and he like jumps into the shower and like turns on the coldest water he can get, and he's just like, I feel like death, what is this? And then Jared like peels himself off of the ground and says, yeah, you're hungover, buddy. Well, you better hurry up, we got work in 20 minutes or whatever, you know? And Roos is absolutely petrified because his first day of assignment on the, you know, surface world, one of the very few, the elite, to receive this opportunity, and he is hungover on his first day. But Jared is like, maybe he's a bit like more nonchalant about it because he's been translating for years. You know, it's not as big of a deal as they make it out to be, right? And so then what follows is our series of Special Agent Anchor. He's, you know, making contacts with the criminal underworld. He's like infiltrating businesses, you know, breaking into government buildings, stealing documents, that sort of thing. You know, uncovering a larger mystery. Because he, you know, through just like reading through vagaries in the documents, he's able to tell that the Atlantean government is not being entirely truthful with the rest of the world, you know? They're using, you know, dates and numbers that wouldn't make sense for them to use. Like, oh, something is dated as being from 1975, right? It's like, how the fuck was this dated from 1975 if you guys have been down here for millennia and just now recently, like, opened up to the world, you know? Like, that doesn't make sense. And so there's, like, obviously this different mystery that's happening, and that's, like, he's unraveling while also, you know, having an adventure each episode, or, like, every 2 episodes he's, like, doing something with, like, oh, there's, you know, drug smugglers, or he's like rescuing some people who have been human trafficked or Atlantean trafficked, right? Because he's not a monster. He doesn't have like no empathy or anything. He's just more concerned with his mission than anything else. But he's also, you know, he's helping people. He's trying to, like, you know, do right by people while also like exploring the underwater, you know, underbelly, right? And then Emil is, again, he's solving a mystery, but it's more of a him-specific mystery, right? Because he's like, these, like, Atlantean people are asking me a lot of questions. You know, a lot of questions that seem weird for them to be asking me. Like, you know, like specific bodily functions, how they work, biology, you know, culture, what the outside world is like, how the outside world, you know, handles people who look different, right? That sort of thing. And so he's like trying to uncover what they want with him, because, you know, his whole arc is figuring out that he wasn't chosen randomly. This wasn't by accident. He was very purposefully chosen to be the, you know, person who came down to Atlantis and spent 2 months with them. And so he's trying to figure out why. And while this is happening, while Roos is like helping to navigate, helping, you know, Atlanteans and and Earthlings navigate each other's like cultural faux pas, because he's, you know, been on the side of either, because he's been in New York City, you know, being insulted, but also, like, insulting people by accident, and he's, like, figuring out his way, right? So that's really what the whole series, the first season at least, that would be what it's about, right? And then I have a twist. The twist ending. It ties all three of their stories together, right? Because all three of these characters, their stories are not intertwined, they're not interlocked, but they do, like, pass through each other every once in a while. Like, we'll see Special Agent Anchor, his handler on the surface world, will be at the UN, and, like, we'll talk with Roos about, like...
Yeah, so you'll see some of the same side characters.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to also see them in the background of each other's scenes, like, sort of like Pulp Fiction-like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And, like, exactly.
Like, they got different stories going on, but they're still in the same world. They're going on at the same time.
Yeah, and so, like, maybe in one episode where Emil is, like, partying at a club, Anchor is at that same club looking for, you know, an informant or looking for information. And so they, like, pass each other or, like, you know, miss each other by, like, seconds, you know, that sort of thing. So, and then there's the twist, the reveal. You know, Anchor infiltrates this final government building. He finds these documents, and his face, like, he opens them, and he starts reading, and he starts flipping the pages faster and faster, and you could see his face, like, eyes wide, and his, like, skin gets, like, paler and paler, and he's like, what the? And then cut to Emil. He's, you know, writing a letter to his mother or whatever. He's been writing letters to his mother this entire time. We could have that be, like, kind of a subplot, right? Where he's, like, talking about his adventures with his mom and it's, like, all this stuff. And he, like, puts it down a special slot, and that slot is supposedly, you know, airtight, sends it to a mailroom, which packages it up and sends it to the surface, right? And then the letter, it gets jammed in the slot or something. And so he goes down and he you know, he knows where the slot leads, and he goes down and he follows it down to the mailroom to just, like, hand them the letter himself. And turns out that this isn't a mailroom, it's an incinerator. You know, this is goes directly into one of the heat vents that they use for power, right? So he's like, what the, you know, and he gets back to his room and he's trying to figure out, like, he's packing up, you know, maybe he, you know, makes a phone call to somebody, like a U.S. embassy that he, or like a German embassy that he, you know, has contact with that is, you know, maybe on the surface or somewhere in the city. Because this is it's like 90%, 95% Atlanteans, but there's, like, a small human population who lives there who are mostly traders and
like the secret agent guy.
Yeah, secret agent guys, embassy people.
You know,
that sort of thing.
Guys.
And just as he's about to leave, right? Two huge Atlantean dudes burst into his room.
No.
And knock him out, right?
No.
And we cut to Roos, and Roos is, like, having he's doing his story, and he's figuring out that there is some sort of dastardly scheme that the Atlantean government is plotting, but he you know, he is grown to enjoy human culture and find that while it does have lots of faults, it also has lots of things that are good about it. And so he's like, because his final, like, arc is going to be, well, I'm torn between my people and, you know, this new society. And so Emil wakes up to find that he is being rescued by Special Agent Anchor, right? Anchor has burst into his room. He's, like, kicking the shit out of these Atlantis guards, right? Even though they're huge. He's using an ant gun. Maybe he's got, like, a special retractable harpoon thing that he's yanking dudes' arms like the Batman does in the Batman. He shoots it through their leg and he yanks them over. You know, that sort of thing. And he's like, come on, kid, we need to go, right? And they, you know, they start escaping. Special Agent Anchor has like a submarine style situation stashed on the outskirts of town that they need to get to in order to escape. And Emil's like, what's going on? And he's like, I'll explain it on the way. And then just as like they get to the first floor and they're like, we can escape from here, boom, like 60 guards show up. And the old man who, you know, it's always an old man. It's an old white man. Atlantis man, but you know, he's an old white man. He's like, I believe that we can explain it now. You know, and they both get strapped to a table and the evil villain explains the entire plot of the show, because how else are you going to do something like that? Turns out the Atlanteans, they were lying. They were lying this entire time. They haven't been hidden away from society for millennia. They have only been hidden away from society since 1945. That's right.
Oh.
These Atlanteans are Nazis.
Oh my god, that's where it was going from.
The Nazis created this special, like, genetic alteration program at the tail end of the war.
What?
And then took the best and brightest that they had.
This is the second time now you've done Nazis.
These Nazis are the
Out of
best
nowhere.
supervillains ever. But they created this secret, like, underwater genetic program that you know, they're creating a master race. You know, they created the master race, and they think of themselves as the master race.
That's why they're all blonde and have blue eyes. Oh, it'll make so much sense.
And that's why Emil was chosen, because they are going to create an army of clones of Emil, right? Of, like, you know, genetic copies of him. They maybe change the face up a little bit, change the heights, you know, so it's not all exactly his face. And they're going to avatar these clones, because they've got all sorts of technology, right? They're going to avatar them, like in the movie Avatar, in order to use these cloned copies of Emil in order to infiltrate all of the world governments and take over. And so Roos and Special Agent Anchor and Emil, all their stories are all combining, because Emil is the final key. He's the key to Atlantean world domination. And the only reason they picked him is because he's a quote-unquote perfect genetic specimen. Because he's blonde, pale, blue eyes, he's German, you know? This was all, it was all purposeful. It was all there from the very start, you know? And so, Emil, or Special Agent Anchor is like, shit, it's the fucking Nazis again, you know? And, he uses some of his little, like, CIA tech to, cause, like, some sort of, sonic disturbance that is, that affects Atlantean brain chemistry more than it does normal Earthling brain chemistry. Uses it to escape, and he's taking Emil, and they're just basically having this big, like, run, you know, chase scene through the city. And as he's doing that, it's intercut with Roos confronting the Atlantean, whatchamacallits? The people who works at the UN? You know?
Ambassadors.
Yeah, ambassadors. The Atlantean ambassadors. He figures out their plan and he confronts them about it. And they explain that, like, you don't want to be a part of this disgusting Earthling society with all their race mixing and their you know, all this stuff. It's disgusting and it's bad, and you should be thankful that you belong to the master race, or else you would have been dead already. You know, with that kind of insubordinate thought. And Emil is like, but we can't do this. And it's like, we've already done it. And so he's like,
no,
you've made your decision? And it's like, this decision was made for me 40 years ago. I'm simply following through on the final solution to Earth's problems. And then Roos is like, fine, then I've made my decision as well. And just as he says it, all the CIA bursts in, like big fucking SWAT guys burst in with their machine guns, and they're like, let's go, you Nazi sons of bitches, you know. And it's a big fight, and there's two big fights happening at the same time. As
former President Jimmy Carter's
there. He's got a nail gun.
Like, I'm back.
He's got a nail
fighting
gun.
the Nazis again.
I was building houses. Now I'm building graves, baby. That's what he says.
Yep.
Yeah, and so after a very, very close calls, Emil and Special Agent Anchor, they escape Atlantis, and Roos he's ostracized by his people, but he knows that it is not their fault, that they have been, their society was created by evil men for an evil purpose, but that doesn't mean that they're all evil. So he begins to reconstruct the, sort of international identity of the Atlantean peoples, right? Because one of the points that I want to make with this show is that just because your leaders are evil doesn't mean that your people are evil, right? That's why I wanted one of the main characters to be Atlantean, because he's not a bad guy, even though his grandfather was a Nazi, right? Yeah. And so the show ends with everyone who is bad getting put in jail. We can have another Nuremberg trial, because maybe some of the older, Atlantean like council members are the Nazis who, have used their crazy super technology to, reduce their aging or whatever. And it ends with a hopeful look at the future, that maybe, even though there's some bad blood, right, between everybody, maybe hopefully we'll be able to keep it going, to find common ground, and it's a hopeful ending to the show, which I think I haven't done in a while, so I wanted to have a hopeful ending. But yeah, that's how the show ends. That's all. Neuwasser. Come up with a better title if you want.
It. It's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks.
Didn't see Nazis coming, even though you kind of told me before we recorded.
Nazi Atlantis, man. I did want the Nazis to be a bit of a turn into left field.
It was, You never see Nazis.
You really don't. Especially not in Atlantis.
No, did not expect water Nazis.
Water Nazis. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the very reason. Before we go, what song should play over the final credits?
Under the Sea.
I was going to say Under the Sea. Under the Sea.
From Ariel.
Down where it's wet, it's so much better. Believe me. I don't know the rest of the song, but thank you all for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, is by my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. If you're Chris Nolan, get on Twitter and then tweet about the podcast. I am back on Twitter because I have no self-control. And so if you're interested in tweeting, tweet the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast at, what is it, VRP pod or something like that? You'll find it. We're not very...
It's in the description.
It's in the description. See, it's even better. Jake does all the work. I just say things. Mm-hmm. I am, yeah.
He's also supposed to tweet things, but, not everyone does. Part.
No one listens. No one watches that Twitter. But also, I don't do my part, and that's okay. According to Jake, he tells me on the weekends it's okay that you don't do enough work. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.